Willow never thought I would actually leave her. She believed that my love for her outweighed everything, even my own life. Because of that confidence, she thought she could openly stay entangled with her first love and I would simply accept it. What she never truly understood was that my marriage to her had never been built on love in the first place. To her, I was nothing more than a devoted simp, someone who revolved around her entirely. But beneath that surface, what bound us together was nothing more than business. There were no real feelings between us at all. That evening, it was 8 o'clock when I stood alone in the kitchen, reheating the food laid out on the table. This was already the third time I had done so. The chicken soup I had prepared for Willow had gone cold again. Food could always be reheated, just like my heart, burned and scorched night after night as I waited for Lucia to come home. I let out a quiet sigh, but my hands kept moving. After reheating everything, I began cleaning the house, wiping the dining table until it gleamed. Then I carefully took out Willow's clothes for the next day and ironed them in advance, remembering to spray her favorite rose perfume. That scent had long been etched deep into my memory. By the time I finished preparing her bath and placed the calming tea beside it, it was already 10 o'clock. Finally, the door opened and Willow walked in, looking exhausted. I instinctively took her bag from her hands and knelt down to change her shoes for her. Just as I was about to ask whether she was tired, she cut me off impatiently. "I'm going to shower first." She didn't even spare me a glance. Her eyes were glued to her phone, and every now and then, a gentle smile appeared on her lips. But when she finally looked up and noticed me, that smile vanished instantly. She shrugged off her jacket, letting it fall to the floor and stepping on it as she spoke irritably. "Go wash my clothes and change the perfume." "Roses again? That's so tacky." Rolling her eyes, she walked straight into the bathroom. Soon, the sound of running water filled the house, mixed with her light, cheerful laughter. I was already used to it. Without a word, I put her clothes into the washing machine, then returned to the kitchen to reheat the food for the fourth time. When Willow came out, she deliberately walked barefoot across the floor I had cleaned over and over again, her half-dried hair dripping water everywhere. The tidy house instantly became a mess. She played with her phone, pressed the voice message button, and replied sweetly, "Makoto, you should go to bed early too. Good night." Then she glanced at the dishes on the table, sniffed disdainfully, and sneered. "The same food every time. How boring. I'm not eating." With that, she turned and went upstairs, slamming the bedroom door shut. The loud bang felt like it crashed straight into my chest, making me flinch. I looked around the house. Every corner bore traces of my careful effort. But what was the point? I had sacrificed so much for this home, for her. Yet in Willow's eyes, all of it probably couldn't compare to a single good night from Makoto. That night, for the first time, I didn't clean the table. Instead, I turned off all the lights in the living room and lay down on the couch. I took out my phone, saw several missed calls, and returned the call to my mother-in-law. As soon as the call connected, her worried voice came through. "George, are you really going to divorce Willow?" I didn't respond immediately. My eyes drifted to our wedding photo hanging nearby. In the picture, I was smiling humbly, trying to please Willow, while she looked at me coldly, keeping her distance. I let out a soft sneer, an overwhelming sense of exhaustion washing over me. "Mom," I finally said, "the only reason I was with Willow from the beginning was because of the business relationship between our families. Now that the business is stable and the contract has expired, there's no reason for me to keep staying by her side and becoming an eyesore, right?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line before she sighed softly. "George, I know how much you've suffered all these years. I've seen it with my own eyes. You and Willow grew up together. In terms of background, character, and responsibility, you've always been the best son-in-law in my heart. Who would have thought she'd fall for some minor celebrity and never look at you again?" She continued, "Your parents are still waiting for you overseas. Are you planning to go back? Maybe I should talk to Willow one more time. She really doesn't know how to cherish what she has." Listening to her endless words, I stared at the dark ceiling. Everything that once felt familiar now seemed distant and unfamiliar. In the end, it all came down to one simple reason. Willow liked F-City. 5 years ago, I gave up my family and my career, bought a large apartment here as our wedding home, and moved to this city alone. I had no relatives, no friends. I endured all the strangeness, believing that as long as I built a home with Willow, happiness would naturally follow. But it was all an illusion. 5 years of reality finally slapped me awake and taught me that effort alone can't make everything work. I laughed softly and interrupted her gently. "Mom, it's okay. I should go back." After hanging up, I fell into a daze and soon drifted into sleep. Memories flooded my mind, and I dreamed of 5 years ago. Back then, I returned to China with my parents because our family business was expanding domestically and needed to cooperate with the powerful Liu family. At a dinner banquet, I learned that the two families were about to sign an important contract. It was there that I met Willow again, the childhood friend who had always stayed in my heart. At that time, Willow looked thin and disheveled, her hair messy as she leaned against the balcony, staring blankly into the distance. Her entire body radiated sorrow. From Mrs. Liu, I learned that Willow had fallen deeply in love with a boy band idol named Makoto. She had funded his debut, paid for albums, and even sent him to Korea for training. For 2 whole years, she followed him around the world, barely coming home. But a month earlier, Makoto had publicly announced his relationship with an actress and blocked Willow completely. She nearly lost her mind trying to contact him. She even rushed to the airport to confront him, only to be beaten by his fans who mistook her for a stalker and sent her to the hospital. After that, Willow fell into despair, numbing herself with parties, alcohol, and reckless behavior. As I listened, my gaze kept drifting back to her. Clearly, she no longer remembered me. Suddenly, Mrs. Liu's eyes lit up, and she proposed adding a clause to the contract. "Since our cooperation will be long-term, we might as well become one family. That way, trust will be absolute." For the sake of business, and because of my own feelings, I gave up my inheritance and signed a 5-year business marriage contract with the Liu family. I hid my identity and approached Willow as a low-level employee, doing everything for her like a devoted simp. From that moment on, everyone knew Willow had a shadow that followed her everywhere. I loved her humbly, willing to do anything, never caring that another man occupied her heart. I protected her quietly. Willow never rejected my kindness, but she never gave me an answer either. On my 99th proposal, Willow held a wine glass, looking at me drunkenly. She laughed softly, smashed the glass on the floor, and waved me over in front of everyone. "If you're proposing, shouldn't you kneel to show sincerity?" The crowd began to tease, and her best friend openly mocked me. "Compared to Makoto, you're just a well-trained dog. Without sincerity, why would Willow marry you?" I knew she was humiliating me, treating me like a joke. But without hesitation, I knelt down on the shattered glass. Blood immediately seeped out. That was the first time Willow panicked. She rushed over and hugged me tightly. Fireworks burst over the yacht, lighting up her eyes. In that moment, I saw hesitation and pain in her gaze, and that brief tenderness completely blinded me. "Willow," I said, "marry me. I'll protect you for the rest of my life." She rested her head on my shoulder and nodded. I knew our marriage was built on lies, but her pain at that moment felt real. I believed that even if she didn't love me deeply, there would always be a place for me in her heart. I thought that as long as I tried hard enough, one day I could win her over. But later, I learned the truth. She agreed to marry me only because Makoto had posted his engagement photos that very day, flaunting his happiness. After the wedding, Willow continued to go out every night, never telling me where she went. Later, when Makoto announced his divorce, Willow disappeared for 2 whole months, chasing him around the world and secretly sending him money behind my back. When Makoto returned to the country for his birthday, Willow rented an entire building to celebrate. During a motorcycle race with minor celebrities, an accident happened, and I had to pick her up from the police station. She was so drunk she could barely stand. I stayed by her side all night, but she kept calling other men's names in her sleep. That was when I knew it was time. The contract had ended. It was time to let go. By noon the next day, Willow slowly woke up. Seeing the plain porridge and eggs on the table, she frowned. "I want a sandwich. Go make one." I didn't move. I calmly took another sip from my bowl. "We're out of ingredients. Maybe next time." I knew there wouldn't be a next time. My ticket was already booked. In a month, I would leave for good. Willow didn't care. She complained lightly and sat down, her attention fixed on her phone, smiling at whoever she was chatting with. After she finished eating, I quietly handed her the divorce papers. "Willow, let's get a divorce." My voice was calm, as if I were talking about something trivial. She didn't even look up. "Okay." I smiled bitterly. I had always known she felt nothing for me. Now that Makoto was back, even her indifference toward me was disappearing. I pointed to the blank space at the end. "Just sign here." "MHM." She signed quickly without reading, annoyed that I had interrupted her call. I took the papers and said softly, "In a month, we'll finalize the divorce. I'll leave the country. Let's part peacefully." She waved her hand dismissively. "I know. You're so annoying." She immediately dialed another number, her expression turning gentle again. I couldn't help asking, "Willow, do you even know what you just signed?" She looked at me, confused. "Wasn't it just some business contract? I already told you to handle that yourself. Don't bother me." I laughed softly. "No, nothing else. There won't be anything else." In my heart, I wished her happiness with Makoto. After sending the papers to the lawyer, I went to Wong Corporation to wrap up my work. The vice president grabbed my hand tightly. "Mr. Wong, you're finally here. I'm glad you're letting go of your wife and focusing on work." "It's ex-wife," I corrected calmly. "We're already divorced." He sighed knowingly. "You did so much for the Liu family. Which CEO cooks, cleans, and serves his wife like that? You gave everything, and she never noticed. It's better this way." Everyone could see how much I had given, everyone except the person closest to me. That night, I packed my belongings. Only then did I realize how little of this house actually belonged to me. The apartment was filled with Willow's things: stuffed toys, designer bags, handmade flowers, a rabbit-shaped lamp. Anything she liked, I bought for her. She would thank me casually, then toss it aside. The house was completely filled with her presence, leaving no space for mine. And only then did I truly understand just how small and insignificant I had been in this marriage. I immediately called a moving company and had everything that belonged to me moved out. Anything I had bought for Willow that she had never even bothered to open, I threw away. If she didn't want them, then I would deal with them myself. By the time the movers finished and left, I was drenched in sweat, standing at the community gate, exhausted. Just then, Willow walked over with a group of people. Her best friend Maria was among them, the same Maria who had always looked down on me. Seeing me in such a miserable state, she immediately raised her voice in mockery. "Isn't this Willow's door guard? Did you forget to wear your leash today? Why are you wandering outside instead of staying home cooking?" I didn't respond and turned to leave. Maria bent down, picked up a discarded water bottle from the ground, and hurled it at my head. "Pick up your trash. Are you deaf? There's a bottle here, why don't you pick it up and sell it for money?" She burst into hysterical laughter. Ever since Willow and I got together, Maria had humiliated me countless times, and Willow had never once stopped her. Everyone around assumed that meant Willow approved. In their eyes, I was just someone lowly who didn't belong in their circle. If this had been before, I would have smiled and apologized. But today, I had no intention of doing that. I sneered and said coldly, "If I were a trash collector, I'd start with you." I turned to leave, but Maria grabbed my arm tightly. "Who said you could leave?" I had always been the one to lower myself for them. But now that I was pushing back, it infuriated all these privileged heirs. I was forced to turn around, and that was when I saw Willow standing silently in another man's arms, staring straight at me. She spoke calmly. "Trash collectors shouldn't talk big. It's meaningless. Look carefully, Makoto is back. We're a perfect match. He's the one for me. I suggest you stop embarrassing yourself and leave." The man beside her was looking me up and down. Platinum blonde hair, luxury brand clothes, a rebellious aura, everything about him screamed celebrity. No wonder Willow had chased him for so many years. Makoto extended his hand toward me, arrogance clear in his eyes. "So you're Willow's husband?" "I'm Makoto." Before he could finish speaking, Willow grabbed his hand and blocked him from me. She said sweetly, Makoto, don't misunderstand. You left years ago. Was I supposed to wait around? What husband? I only have eyes for you. Can't you see how I feel? She placed his hand over her chest and looked at him affectionately. The crowd immediately erupted into cheers. Get together! Get together! Maria seized the moment and suggested loudly that since Makoto had just returned to the country and wasn't familiar with anything, he should stay at Willow's place so she could take care of him. She nudged me and said mockingly, "Brother-in-law, you wouldn't mind, right?" Willow's gaze shifted to me. Everyone knew how deeply I loved her. Anything else could be discussed, but anything involving Willow would always make me jealous and irrational. I chuckled softly and replied, "Sure. No problem." The moment she heard that, Willow visibly relaxed. Everyone surrounded Makoto with alcohol bottles and headed toward the house, laughing and chatting, completely ignoring me. Perhaps out of guilt, Willow later came to find me alone. "George, you know Makoto's been abroad for so long. I'm not comfortable with him living alone. He'll stay at our place for a few days. Don't be petty and complain to my mom." I sneered inwardly. We were already getting divorced. Even if this were something to discuss, what did it matter? And did she ever think about how hard it had been for me to give up everything for her, to adapt alone, to endure everything by myself? Willow could consider Makoto's comfort so carefully, yet when it came to me, she couldn't see a thing. With a blank expression, I replied calmly, "It's fine. He can stay as long as he wants. I don't mind. I'll be leaving soon anyway." Willow had probably expected me to get angry or complain to her mother. She hadn't expected me to be this calm, as if I were talking about someone else's affairs. But she didn't have time to think further. She was too happy to finally spend time alone with Makoto. Afraid I might change my mind, Willow moved Makoto's luggage into the largest bedroom the very next day. Unexpectedly, I didn't come home for the entire week. Willow was thrilled. This gave her and her idol even more time together. She personally washed Makoto's clothes, hung his intimate garments out on the balcony, and even tried cooking. She busied herself making heart-shaped bento boxes. Not only did Willow happily cook while covered in oil, she also seemed to enjoy playing the role of a devoted little wife. She posted many photos on social media. Because Makoto's identity couldn't be exposed, she could only show her affection subtly. She posted, "Cooking for someone I like, even getting burned feels like happiness. 3 simple dishes and a soup. Is this what home tastes like? Happiness bubbling up. I wish I could stay home every day." Some clueless followers commented, "Has Willow fallen for her brother-in-law?" Willow quickly replied, "Not him. He's not worthy of eating the food I make." I sneered and refreshed the page, only to see that comment had already been deleted. Not long after, Willow suddenly messaged me. "Why haven't you been home? Where are you? Makoto wants pig stomach soup. Hurry back and make it for him." I didn't need to guess. Willow must have been furious. But she would never admit it. She probably missed the meals I used to make. I always remembered her preferences. No matter how complicated a dish was, I would learn it just for her. After only 1 week of cooking for herself, she had finally realized how much effort went into what looked so simple. She was already exhausted, yet I had done this for her for 5 years without complaint. Thinking this, Willow decided to call me. In the past, I always reported my whereabouts to her. This week, I had completely disappeared and hadn't checked in on her at all. Before she could dial, I sent her a message first. "I don't know how." Short. Direct. Willow must have sensed that my attitude toward her had changed. In her memory, I had never refused her, not once. Let alone rejected her outright. Before she could process it, I sent another message along with a photo. "I'm in the hospital. I won't be coming back for a while." The photo showed my hand with an 4 drip, something she would immediately recognize as mine. In reality, I was fine. The picture was from years ago. But now that I had decided to divorce, I had no desire to get entangled with Willow any further. The chat showed typing, then stopped. Finally, Willow sent a long voice message. "Are you mute? You can't even say you're sick and instead pretend to be dead just to get my attention? How boring. Don't forget to take your medicine. Don't go and die. I'd become a widow. From her awkward tone, I could tell she was somewhat worried. But I immediately shook my head. How could Willow care about me? All she cared about was Makoto. She was probably relieved I wasn't coming home so she could spend more time alone with him. Still, a few days later, I returned home. I had left some important documents behind when I moved out and needed to retrieve them. At 8 in the evening, I opened the door. The first thing I saw was Willow and Makoto having dinner together, gazing at each other affectionately. I frowned and told myself to endure for just one more week. Then I would finally be free. I walked in with a tense expression, but to my surprise, Willow didn't scold me. Instead, she invited me to join them. "George, we're having hot pot tonight. I remember it's your favorite. You're the man of the house. Come eat with us." I froze. This was the first time Willow had acknowledged me as the man of the house in front of an outsider, especially in front of Makoto, the man she loved so deeply. Since she had said that, I couldn't embarrass her. I sat down beside them. Willow barely ate anything. She focused entirely on making sauce for Makoto, cooking food for him, and serving him, hardly ever taking her eyes off him. Makoto gave me a half-smile. He deliberately asked Willow to feed him directly and leaned closer to her from time to time, acting inseparable. I watched coldly, saying nothing, eating quietly. Clearly dissatisfied with my reaction, Makoto suddenly stood up and served me a bowl of soup. "Mr. Wong, this nourishing soup was specially made by Willow at 3 in the morning. It's very good. You should try it." As he stood up, he suddenly lost his balance. The entire bowl of hot soup spilled. Willow screamed and instinctively grabbed Makoto's hand, carefully checking if he was burned. But where Willow couldn't see, the scalding soup poured onto my chest. My skin instantly turned red and swollen. I clenched my teeth, holding back a scream as blisters formed and sharp pain shot through me like needles. I couldn't help but gasp. She turned to me in panic. "George, are you okay?" For the first time, I saw genuine worry in Willow's eyes. "How did you get burned like this? We need to go to the hospital right now." Her concern seemed real, but I remained silent, grinding my teeth. Makoto muttered, "Big guys like him can handle a few blisters. It's nothing. Unlike me, I have to protect my hands for touring." His words immediately drew Willow's attention away. She rushed back to him, examining his hands carefully. There were only 2 faint red marks from splashed oil. Makoto scoffed and shook her hand away. "What's the big deal? Go check on George." "I'm fine." Willow insisted. "You're crazy. Your hands are vital for your music and performances. You're a top star. You've never been injured like this. No, we're going to get you checked." Makoto's words and his deliberately downcast expression pushed Willow to grab his hand and rush out. But before leaving, she paused, turned back to me, and apologized. "You know Makoto's a star. He needs to protect his skin more than anyone. I'll take him to the hospital. You can go by yourself." I watched as they left, their figures disappearing from sight. Only then did the searing pain in my chest fully hit me. I called my assistant, then drove myself to the hospital to treat the burn. When I arrived at the burn unit, the entrance was already surrounded by security. Ordinary people weren't allowed in. A nurse glanced at my injury and said quickly, "Sir, the burn unit has been rented out today by Miss Liu. You should go to another hospital. You don't want to delay treatment." I heard her boyfriend got burned. She's frantic. She spent a fortune renting the entire floor and hiring top specialists. Miss Liu is crazy in love. It's like something out of a novel. I just saw them. They really are a perfect match. A perfect match. I couldn't help laughing. A married woman bringing another man to the hospital, abandoning her husband for a celebrity. Yes, they truly were a perfect match. After treating my burns at another hospital, I went home to retrieve my documents. Just as I finished, I received a message from my parents. It was a video of them with family friends overseas. Behind them was the villa where I grew up. Their warm smiles and welcoming voices filled me with sudden warmth. That was the environment I belonged to, the place where I could spread my wings. 5 years ago, I had come to this unfamiliar city. Now, with my parents growing older, It was time to return and take over the family business. I was tired of this game, tired of pretending alongside these wealthy heirs. Over the past few years, I had established myself in the mainland market. Deep down, I knew I was an entrepreneur, someone meant to stand in the world of power and wealth, to show what I had learned. I was fortunate that my parents and friends supported me. This long-lost support made me breathe a deep sigh of relief, and the heavy weight pressing on my chest finally lifted. For the first time in years, I felt light and free. I stayed at the company, preparing for a remote project scheduled for a week later. I silenced my phone and focused entirely on organizing financial data. Several days passed before I finally turned my phone back on. Dozens of missed calls and messages filled the screen. Without exception, every single one was from Willow. I was stunned. Before this, Willow had almost never contacted me, let alone so many times. As I was still processing this, an unfamiliar number called. I answered instinctively. Angry accusations exploded from the other end. "You watchdog! Where have you been? Don't you know Willow's gone crazy looking for you? Don't think disappearing will get her attention. I'll tell you right now, Makoto is the one who deserves her, not you. You're not even worthy of carrying my sister's shoes. Stop dreaming." Before I could reply, Maria hung up. I stared at my phone in confusion. Willow was looking for me? The woman who came and went like the wind, who hated being restrained, who never cared where I was. Had Maria made a mistake? But when I checked my phone again, I saw 99 missed calls, all from Willow. It seemed she truly had been trying to reach me. Not wanting to leave anything unresolved on the final day, I decided to go home, though I was still confused. The moment I stepped inside, the housekeeper rushed out, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Wang, you're finally back. You have no idea what it's been like while you were gone." Miss Willow wasn't satisfied with the food we made. She criticized everything, wouldn't let us touch anything, and told us all to leave. She was furious. Then the butler came out as well, his eyes red as he complained tearfully about Willow. Only then did I understand. Willow had grown accustomed to my care, and once I was gone, she began venting her frustration on everyone else. But what did it matter? I was about to disappear completely from Willow's life. No matter how uncomfortable she felt, she would have to face reality on her own. I glanced around the living room. Trash and clothes were scattered all over the floor. Frowning, I bent down, picked up the clothes, and placed them on the couch. The couch made a slight sound as it shifted, and only then did I realize Willow was lying there. Her face was flushed from drinking. She looked at me with a mix of irritation and amusement. "So you finally decided to come home," she said lazily. "Where have you been all this time?" I looked down at her and replied calmly, "I had some business to take care of. I went on a business trip." Willow frowned. "I never knew you cared so much about company matters. You always put me first, didn't you?" It was true that in the past I had always prioritized Willow. What she didn't know was that it was also part of my work. I had once had feelings for her, but I also knew how fragile those feelings were. They couldn't compare to the clear, tangible benefits of business. Since I couldn't obtain affection, I made sure to secure what I deserved in the commercial world. There was a moment of hesitation. If it hadn't been for protecting Willow, I should have returned home long ago to take over my family's business instead of staying here playing the role of a househusband. But I couldn't tell her that. So I took a sip of water and replied indifferently, "The company's been busy lately." Willow's anger seemed to hit a wall. With no other outlet, she complained with a hint of petulance. "I know I messed up last time. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. But you know how Makoto is, he's fragile. Celebrities are always under scrutiny. They can't afford even minor injuries. He got hurt in my house, so I had to take responsibility. Don't be petty about it," she added, "and besides, you agreed to let him stay here in the first place. Why are you making such a big deal now?" She sighed exaggeratedly. "Anyway, I've already had him move out. You can stop fussing and move back in." There was a hint of reproach in her voice. I knew exactly why. My presence had forced Makoto to move out, and Willow could no longer live under the same roof with her beloved idol. But I didn't care. I simply nodded, knowing she had no real problem with me. That meant I could leave without worry. Just as I turned to walk away, Willow called out softly, "Darling." Her voice was unusually sweet, almost coquettish. "I'm starving. It's been so long since I've had your cooking. Can you make me something to eat?" I turned back and let out a quiet chuckle as I pointed to the white bandage on my chest. "You seem to have forgotten that I'm still injured." Willow froze when she noticed the large bandage beneath my white shirt. She had indeed forgotten, and my injury was far worse than Makoto's. She coughed awkwardly to cover it up. "I remember. Of course I do. That's why I brought you a gift to make up for it." As she spoke, Willow stood up and lightly ran her fingers across my chest. She unfastened the shoulder strap of her silk robe, revealing a glimpse of pale skin. I watched as Willow moved closer, her provocative gestures darkening my gaze. In 5 years of marriage, this was the first time she had willingly come close to me. Although we were husband and wife, Willow had always looked down on me. She never allowed me to touch her, and even when we slept, I was made to sleep in the study. I didn't know why she was suddenly being so proactive. Was she trying to make up for neglecting me all this time, for Makoto's sake? I had once longed for this intimacy, but not like this. A wave of self-mockery surged inside me. What I once desired now felt cheap and meaningless. Willow, still playing the seductress, noticed my indifference. Seeing no response, she began to panic. "The atmosphere's not right today," she said quickly. "Let's have a candlelight dinner some other time. Maybe drink a little. After all, you are my husband. There are some things we should put on the agenda." Before she could finish, the door burst open. Maria rushed in, dragging Makoto with her. "Makoto, how could Willow possibly be mad at you when she likes you so much?" Seeing Willow dressed so seductively, Maria exclaimed in surprise. "See? Willow's doing everything she can to win you back. She even learned girl group dances for you. And look at her, she dressed up just for you." Makoto blushed deeply when he saw Willow. Willow opened her mouth but didn't explain anything. I lowered my head and let out a cold chuckle. Without hesitation, I pushed Willow, still dressed in her seductive sleepwear, straight into Makoto's arms. "Since you're dressing up for him," I said lightly, "why be shy?" Willow's face turned bright red. She lowered her head, hiding in Makoto's arms, but couldn't resist sneaking a glance at me. She didn't understand why I was being so generous today. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't pinpoint it. Soon, she stopped thinking about it altogether. Immersed in Makoto's embrace, she swayed seductively in the dim, charged atmosphere. The guests clapped and cheered, egging them on. Maria pulled me aside, not letting me leave. "Come on, don't go. Open your eyes and look, aren't they a perfect match? You'd better give up on Willow and divorce her sooner rather than later." I had no intention of leaving anyway. Tomorrow was the last day of the divorce cooling-off period. I grabbed a glass of red wine and sat quietly in the corner, silently observing their display of affection. The luxurious penthouse had turned into a party venue. Champagne glasses hung from crystal chandeliers, sparkling under the lights. Loud dance music filled the room. Everyone was intoxicated by wealth and indulgence. In the center of it all, Willow lifted her silk robe, revealing smooth, pale thighs, pressing herself against Makoto as she danced seductively. The rich young men around them whistled and shouted encouragement. "Willow's really going all out," someone said. A woman who studied classical music, painting, and calligraphy, willing to give it all up just to please Makoto. "Did you see that necklace Makoto's wearing?" another added. "It's the pigeon blood ruby passed down through Willow's family for generations. One of a kind. She gave it to him, that's a huge gesture." "She's chased Makoto for so long," someone else chimed in. "Even stone would melt. She's willing to follow him around the world, work for him, even pay for his concerts. That's real devotion." "Yeah," another voice laughed. "That celebrity Makoto announced before can't compare to Willow. If you gave the word, she'd marry you in a heartbeat. Why not kiss her and make it official?" "Kiss! Kiss!" the crowd shouted. Amid the laughter and applause, I calmly sipped my wine, watching as they surrounded my wife and another man, urging them to declare their love. At that moment, My assistant entered quietly and leaned close, whispering, "Mr. Wang, everything for your trip abroad has been arranged. The private jet your wife arranged is ready. It will take off in 2 hours. Is there anything else you'd like to handle?" I took the folder he handed me and opened it slightly, seeing the stamped documents inside. A deep sense of relief washed over me. Looking at the chaos around me, the dancing crowd, the home I had long since grown tired of, I realized that in 2 hours I would leave all of this behind. I would return to my life as a CEO, to long-awaited freedom. The red wine tasted especially rich and satisfying. I laughed genuinely and shook my head. No other arrangements. Just get ready to leave. Then I added, "By the way, I don't want anyone to know I'm leaving. If Miss Liu asks about me, don't tell her." My assistant looked up, surprised. His disbelief was obvious. Why bother with farewells? For 5 years, I had shown Willow relentless kindness, not only because of our childhood bond, but because of a contract. It was my mother-in-law's wish that Willow recover from her heartbreak. Now the 5-year agreement had ended, and I had fulfilled my role perfectly. Willow had clearly moved on, especially now that Makoto was back. Whether I stayed or left, she wouldn't care. "I don't want trouble," I said calmly. "Keep it quiet. Just do as I say." The music roared on, but a sharp voice suddenly cut through the noise. "Leaving? Where are you going?" I turned to see Willow staring at me in shock. My brow twitched, but I quickly composed myself and pointed to my injury. "It's nothing. My wound got infected. I'm going to the hospital. Go find Makoto." Confusion flashed through Willow's eyes. She couldn't understand why I kept pushing her toward Makoto lately, why I didn't care about her movements at all, even when she had just called my name. "Why do you keep pushing me toward Makoto?" she asked suddenly. I was caught off guard. For 5 years, she had chosen Makoto over me again and again without explanation. Did I still need a reason now? I smiled lightly. "Because I need to go to the hospital. I can't hang out with you. You and Makoto get along well. Go enjoy yourselves." Though Willow sensed something was wrong, she didn't pursue it further. Maria grabbed her and dragged her back to Makoto. They cut into a cake together, and Makoto playfully smeared cream on Willow's nose. Willow blushed, lowering her head shyly as the crowd cheered louder. "Get together! Get together!" I remained seated, neither stopping them nor joining in. I simply checked the time on my phone. In 1 hour, my flight would depart. I wanted to savor this last moment of quiet. To Maria, my silence looked like despair. She shoved a microphone into my hand. "Feeling like a lost dog now? Seeing how perfect they are together, do you finally realize you're not worthy of Willow? If you're smart, step aside today. We'll all respect you for it." Willow frowned, about to pull Maria away, but I took the microphone calmly. "All right. Since Miss Liu likes Makoto, I'll do the noble thing and step aside. I'll divorce her and make room for them." Willow froze, stunned. The room fell silent. Everyone knew how much I loved her, how much effort I had put into this marriage. Maria was the first to laugh. "Another self-sacrificing act? Last time you pulled this trick, Willow worried for days. It won't work this time." Hearing that, Willow visibly relaxed. I straightened my clothes and stood up. "The divorce agreement is on the bedside table. Believe it or not, I wish you both happiness. I'm leaving now." I walked away without looking back. An unease suddenly gripped Willow. She told herself it was just another joke, just as Maria said. But as she watched my figure disappear, her heart began to pound. Ignoring everyone trying to stop her, she shouted desperately, "George, come back!" Her voice was drowned out by the music. Maria stopped her. "Makoto's still here. Why care about him? Last time you got fooled too. Forget it. Let's keep partying." Willow looked at the empty space where I had been and let go of her worry. She turned back to the dance floor. Whatever it was, she could deal with it later. Meanwhile, I had already reached the tarmac, put on my headset, and boarded the plane. As it took off and the city I had lived in for 5 years slowly shrank below me, a deep sense of relief washed over me. That oppressive life was finally over. Goodbye, Willow. Goodbye, F-City. Goodbye to this unbearable marriage. George's life was finally about to begin again. He leaned back in his seat, a faint smile appearing on his lips, and soon drifted into a deep sleep. Meanwhile, Willow continued partying with the others. The group moved to a seaside villa and celebrated non-stop until dawn. By the time Willow finally grew tired and decided to return home, 5 days had already passed. The house was empty. Absent-mindedly, Willow called out George's name. She called again and again, but there was no response. Only the housekeeper came forward to greet her. "Where is he?" Willow asked. The housekeeper handed her a cup of tea, took the bag from her hands, and replied hesitantly, "Mr. Wong hasn't been home for many days. Perhaps he's been too busy with work." Furious, Willow knocked the tea from her hand and stormed inside. This wasn't the first time George had ignored her. The last time, when he had been burned, she had worriedly sent him many messages. He hadn't replied and, in a petty mood, stayed at the office for a long time without coming home. Willow had thought she was being understanding enough, yet George had caused another scene, running away from home at the slightest provocation. It made her furious. As she walked through the house, something felt wrong. There seemed to be fewer things around. The wall paintings were gone. Many figurines and trinkets were missing. Even the framed photo of the two of them had disappeared. That photo was something George always cherished. No matter how messy the house was, he would always clean and maintain it. But now, it was gone without a trace. Willow's heart sank. Her unease quickly turned into a fear she couldn't explain. She began searching for any trace of George's belongings, but after a long time, it was as if he had vanished completely. Everything he had left behind was gone, and so was he. Breathing heavily, Willow tried to steady herself. Suddenly, she remembered something George had said at the party a few days earlier. She rushed into the bedroom and opened the nightstand. Inside lay a document. The moment she saw the title, Willow's face turned pale. It clearly read, "Divorce Agreement." She frantically flipped to the last page and froze when she saw the signature at the bottom. It was her name. Willow collapsed to the floor, her mind spinning. The signature was unmistakably hers, not printed, but written in her own handwriting. When had she signed this? She tried to remember, and suddenly it hit her. During dinner, while drinking porridge, George had handed her a contract. She had been busy chatting with Makoto and hadn't even looked at it. Could that have been the divorce agreement? Willow clenched the document tightly, crumpling it in frustration, then threw it into the corner. Divorce. George had actually initiated a divorce? It was absurd. Had he forgotten how he proposed to her, kneeling on broken glass, blood streaming from his knees, swearing in front of everyone that he would love her forever? Had he forgotten the 5 years he spent doing everything, cooking, cleaning, laundry, just to please her? These 5 years had passed, and only after Makoto returned had George begun acting jealous. How laughable! Willow was convinced that once George calmed down, he would return to her, embarrassed. She paid no attention to the divorce agreement because she was certain that in this world, no one except George could love her with such intensity and devotion. Perhaps Willow's temper had been so frightening that even the housekeeper wisely avoided mentioning George's name. It wasn't until her best friend Maria noticed Willow hadn't gone out lately that she decided to visit her. When Maria entered the room, she was shocked by the mess. The curtains were drawn, pillows scattered everywhere. Hands on her hips, Maria snapped, "Where's that useless George? Why hasn't he come to clean up?" The housekeeper hesitated before answering, "Mr. Wong has been away for several days." Maria was taken aback. "He hasn't come back." At the party that day, Maria had assumed George's talk of divorce was a joke. After all, Willow was a Liu family heiress. George, with his humble background, could never match her status. Who would really divorce the Liu family's daughter over a moment of anger? The housekeeper added a few more details and mentioned the divorce agreement in the nightstand. Maria felt a jolt of realization. She had been wrong. Looking at Willow lying listlessly on the couch with an empty gaze, Maria's thoughts turned bitter. Without George, Willow could openly be with Makoto and become the golden couple everyone admired. Yet because of George, everything in their circle had become chaotic. The more Maria thought about it, the more she despised him. She grabbed Willow's arm and tried to cheer her up. "Isn't it a good thing that unlucky star is gone? Makoto's back. Willow, don't you think it's time to think about your future? I've been waiting for Makoto to be my real brother-in-law." Willow suddenly shoved her away and snapped, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Maria stumbled back and fell to the floor. Knowing Willow's position in the Liu family, she didn't dare argue. "George has already divorced you. Isn't that the perfect chance for you and Makoto to be together? Why not just be with him?" Willow's face darkened. "Who said we're divorced? Our matters are none of your business." But Maria's words, combined with the fact that George's phone had been unreachable, made Willow face a painful truth. George really did want a divorce. He wasn't joking. In rage, Willow swept everything off the table. All these years she had been generous to George, yet now he was the one bringing up divorce? She immediately called her assistant. "Tell George to stop hiding at the office. Call him and have him come home right now." The assistant replied calmly, clearly prepared. "Miss Liu, Mr. Wang has already resigned as general manager and hasn't been at the company for some time. We haven't been able to contact him." Willow slammed the phone down and dialed George again. No answer. She tried everyone, the housekeeper, Maria, others, but each time she heard the same robotic voice. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is no longer in service." George hadn't just blocked her. He had cancelled his number entirely. Her mind spiraled in chaos. She drove out, running red lights, wandering aimlessly through the streets. Only when she calmed down did she realize she had no idea where to find him. She knew he worked at their company, but she had never asked about his background, where he came from, where he lived, or anything else about him. Grinding her teeth, she went to Liu Corporation. Despite being the eldest daughter, she had never been involved in the business and felt nervous. When she met the vice president, she asked politely, "Uncle Lee, do you know where George is?" He glanced at her and replied sarcastically, "You've been married for 5 years and you're asking me? How would I know? His office is right next door. Why don't you check yourself? You don't even know where he works." Willow was left speechless. With guidance from the assistant, she finally reached George's office. Inside were a folding bed and personal belongings. Because Willow often got angry and forced him to sleep at the office, this place had become a second home. A pang of sympathy hit her. She hadn't known how miserable his life had been. Now the world felt vast, yet she had nowhere to look for him. Looking out at countless lit windows, none seemed to shine for her. Her chest ached. In the past, George always left a light on for her, no matter how late she came home. It was a warmth she only realized she'd lost. Why had he left so decisively? At that moment, her mother called. "Willow, come home. We need to talk. Since you and George have divorced, and things with Makoto are public." "I never agreed to divorce," Willow cut in. Her mother fell silent before replying, "But George already sent the divorce certificate home. Don't you know?" Willow froze. Her mother realized Willow hadn't known. She hadn't expected George to hide it so thoroughly. When Willow saw the divorce certificate, her chest tightened. A month had passed. The cooling-off period was over. George had decided to divorce her a month ago, and she had been completely unaware. Her mother continued, "Back then, when you were heartbroken over Makoto, I asked George to help you. Now that Makoto's back, maybe you should reconnect." "That won't happen," Willow snapped. She didn't know why, but hearing Makoto's name now made her uncomfortable. Though her marriage was hollow, she had grown used to George's presence. Caught between George and Makoto, she couldn't choose. Her mother sent over a contract. Willow read it, and froze when she saw George's signature. Her mother finally revealed the truth. George was the boy she'd known as a child. The marriage had been a 5-year contract. George had fulfilled it perfectly. Every act of devotion had been written there in black and white. The colder Willow read, the colder her heart became. It turned out that all of George's kindness had been planned from the very beginning, part of a prearranged arrangement. The special attention Willow had thought George showed her was, in reality, without any genuine affection. The faint hope she had cautiously held onto was completely shattered. Her heart felt tightly squeezed with pain, and she could no longer hold it in. She cried uncontrollably. On the other end of the phone, Lou's mother was equally shocked. In her memory, Willow had always been proud and reserved, almost looking down on everyone. Even when Makoto had broken up with her, she hadn't cried with such abandon, such loss of dignity. Lou's mother tried to comfort her several times, but every time words reached her lips, she swallowed them. Perhaps only by experiencing matters of the heart could one truly understand their own feelings. When Willow finally cried herself out, she asked in a choked voice, "Mom, you must know where George is now, right?" Hearing her daughter's hopeful inquiry, Lou's mother sighed deeply. Not only had George asked her not to disclose his whereabouts, but it was also part of their agreement. Legally, she was bound to keep it a secret. She replied, "Willow, I've promised, I can't say." Lou's mother sighed again and continued, "Besides, George is meticulous. Even if you did know, what good would it do? George had always been a man who planned ahead. He must have foreseen this situation, which was why, when Lou's mother asked if he would return home to inherit the family business, his response had been vague. Even Lou's mother didn't know where he was now. Willow's last glimmer of hope disappeared. She had never imagined George would leave so completely, so decisively. He had once entered her world suddenly, and now he was leaving without a word. Willow hung up the phone, sitting in the empty living room, speechless, her mind completely blank. At that moment, her phone rang. Reflexively, she answered. "Willow, where are you? Makoto is in trouble." "Come quickly," said a voice on the other end. When Willow arrived at the bar, she saw a group surrounding Makoto. She didn't know any of them, but she recognized the woman standing in front, Sophia, Makoto's previously announced fiancée. Pushing through the crowd, her friend Maria grabbed her arm. "Willow, come here. These people are causing trouble for Makoto." As Maria spoke, all eyes turned to Willow, and Sophia glared at her fiercely, her gaze almost piercing. Willow was confused. No one had ever dared to oppose her so openly. Frowning, she asked, "What are you doing here, you has-been actress?" Sophia sneered. "I'm a has-been actress? And what about you? A shameless woman clinging to a married man. You just can't resist someone else's husband, can you?" Willow's anger flared. Even though she had chased after Makoto for 5 years, she had never crossed the line. Gifts were always given in public, never in private. Sophia, once famous but now fading, was actually the heir to the Shen family business. She had been abroad managing business and studying at a business school. She and Makoto had fallen in love on a project, but later Sophia chose to quit the entertainment industry to help her family. Due to their differing careers and busy schedules, their relationship drifted apart, giving Willow the chance to get closer to Makoto. When Sophia realized this, she sent people to investigate. She found out that while she had been busy, Makoto and Willow had traveled the world together, spending her money, completely disregarding her, the legitimate fiancée. Proud and successful, Sophia had never been humiliated like this before, and the realization made her furious. Makoto had publicly announced their divorce, but Sophia had never been informed. She did not recognize it and would never accept it. Sophia's gaze turned cold as she said, "Miss Lou, you come from a noble family, yet you're doing this? Married but still chasing someone else's husband? That's quite a talent." Willow's face flushed with both anger and shame. She clenched her fists and spat, "I'm already divorced." Everyone gasped, especially Makoto. He had always known how deeply Willow loved him, but he had never reciprocated. He had always seen her as a friend, nothing more. After marrying Sophia and going abroad, they drifted apart. Over time, he realized how precious Willow's selfless love had been. A woman willing to give up everything for him was rare and valuable. He gradually became immersed in Willow's flattery. In her eyes, he was not past his prime, but a shining star. Willow carefully prepared gifts for him, nestled against him like a little woman, unlike Sophia, who could carry everything herself, making him feel suffocated as a man. Even knowing Willow had been married for years, he believed she would unconditionally return to him if he beckoned. Their transgressions grew more frequent, and Makoto decided to stop pretending. Without telling Sophia, he returned to his country to test himself, to find out who he truly loved and who he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. His previous marriage had been an attempt, not the final outcome. Once back, Willow became even more caring toward him, not even considering her husband. Makoto repeatedly provoked Willow, and each time she stood by his side. She even let him stay in her house. However, the more time he spent with Willow, the more he realized he didn't have romantic feelings for her. His feelings were more about gratitude and guilt, which led him to indulge her. To outsiders, they appeared to be an ambiguous couple. Hearing that Willow was divorcing her husband for him, Makoto's heart ached. Sophia bypassed Willow and embraced him. "Darling, I've neglected you. I've ignored you for so long, and I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I'll spend more time with you. Will you come home with me? And we're not divorced yet. There's still a chance to start over, don't you think?" Makoto hesitated, looking into Sophia's tear-filled eyes. She appeared tough outside, but soft inside, the softness that had once made him fall for her. He had loved Sophia deeply before and could not push her away now. Willow cried out anxiously, "No, Makoto! You can't agree to this." Panicked, she felt that George had already left her. Would she lose Makoto too? Maria chimed in, "Makoto, after all this time, can't you see Willow is the one who's truly good for you?" Makoto looked at Sophia in his arms, then at the anxious Willow, and sighed deeply, as if making up his mind. "Willow, thank you for all the love you've shown me over the years, but I truly only see you as a sister." Willow was stunned. "No, that's not true. I've liked you since your debut. I've always supported you, voted for you, treated you like my idol. I've done so many things to stand by your side. How can you reject me?" Makoto pushed her away, his voice cold. "I know you've done a lot for me, but there's always a layer of distance between an idol and a fan. The version of me you see may be filtered, but in reality, I'm weak and can never refuse anyone. Sophia is the one I've truly loved. I'll always remember your kindness, but continuing to delay your future is my fault. George treats you very well. I'm ashamed to compare. I'm sorry to have disturbed your life. From now on, we part ways. Let's not meet again." Willow could almost hear her heart shattering. Sophia took Makoto and left with a group, leaving Willow alone to drink. She downed more than 10 bottles of alcohol in one go, drinking until she vomited and lost consciousness, before Lou's mother took her home. When Willow woke, she demanded more alcohol, refused to eat, and continued abusing herself. The repeated abandonments had pushed her to the brink. Lou's mother was anxious and heartbroken but helpless. George had once saved Willow, but this time, no one was there to help. The bar's surveillance footage was uploaded online and quickly made headlines. At that time, I had just finished my 6th meeting of the day. A friend came into my office, handing me his phone with a gossipy grin. "Isn't this the eldest daughter of the Liu family? She's trending now, and it's because of those old rumors." I glanced at the screen and hummed in response. My friend, deflated, tentatively asked, "Aren't you upset?" I opened my computer and continued working. "Not at all. It's none of my business if it's about strangers." My friends knew everything about the dramatic events from 5 years ago. I had once kneeled on broken glass for Willow, married her, played the role of a simp, and then had a very public divorce. They all thought I had gone abroad due to a broken heart. So when they saw Willow's meltdown video, they felt vindicated. But I appeared completely unaffected, leaving them confused. My friend nudged me, frustrated. "What Willow did to you back then, just hearing about it makes me angry. I almost want to kick her again." I shook my head and laughed helplessly. The truth was, after going abroad and rejoining my family, I had completely forgotten the past. That night, as I was about to head home after dinner with a friend, he suddenly raised his phone excitedly. "George, your ex-wife is losing it." I furrowed my brow and took the phone. When I saw the news report, I gasped. That's when I understood what he meant by losing it. Willow had been divorced from me, and now Makoto had broken up with her again. Makoto had publicly announced their reconciliation, revealing that he and his wife had never truly divorced, only experiencing a brief marital conflict. But Willow didn't know this. She had given so much, only to end up with nothing, watching others flaunt their love. Willow had completely fallen apart. The once glamorous eldest daughter of the Liu family, who had played in a world of fame and fortune, was now a broken mess at home. She refused to leave the house, wouldn't wash her face, brush her teeth, or eat. She even resorted to self-harm and took non-prescription drugs. Without my patience and companionship, Willow had almost descended into madness. The paparazzi caught a glimpse of her. She had become so thin she looked like a skeleton, her eyes sunken, hair dull and dry. She no longer resembled the pampered young lady she had once been. She looked like a homeless vagabond. Willow grew more grateful for the good I had shown her. She tried countless times to find me, but my departure had been carefully planned. She couldn't find a single trace of me. She had no idea where I was, so she gave up entirely and let herself spiral. She caused scenes at Lou Corporation, asking everyone about my whereabouts, damaging the company's reputation. She punished friends who had mocked me, forcing Maria out of her family company, leaving her to sink into obscurity. She cried, screamed, and did shocking things. Meanwhile, I drove calmly, as if Willow didn't exist. From the day the contract was signed, I had considered her just a clause. I wanted to fulfill it as quickly as possible so I could leave. After gaining access to all of Lou's company's resources, even when Lou's mother asked about my future plans, I simply smiled and said nothing. Years of enduring humiliation had allowed me to focus fully on my career. I no longer cared about Willow's affairs. Her display of deep emotions now only made me laugh. My initial concern had been nothing more than a fleeting youth sentiment. From the bottom of my heart, I never truly loved Willow. Why would I mourn her now? I dropped my friend off and drove home alone. Wang's company was running smoothly in the domestic market, and I planned to focus on developing the new energy sector. During this period, I discussed prospects with like-minded friends. One day, after finishing work, I was invited to an energy forum at an Ivy League university. Accompanied by my assistant, I arrived just on time. Suddenly, there was a thunderous round of applause. I thought a major industry leader had arrived. But when the applause died down and I saw the person on stage, I froze. The shining big shot on stage. I knew him. The girl on stage clearly noticed me and flashed a bright smile. "George, it's been a while," she said. My surprise was genuine because the girl on stage was none other than Anna, the student I had supported back home. Anna was the same age as me but had lost both parents at a young age and grown up in an orphanage. When I first saw her, I was struck by Anna's determined gaze and immediately requested that my parents sponsor her education. I thought to myself that someone with such a strong will, unwilling to be defeated by fate, would surely achieve great things one day. I never expected that my small act of kindness would allow this fragile bamboo to grow into a towering forest, lush and vibrant. I had heard from my family that Anna had excelled in her studies, wholly focused on academics with no other extracurricular interests. Seeing such a talented young woman now, I felt a deep sense of pride for her. On stage, Anna's eyes shone brightly, filled with affection as she looked at me. My kindness had changed her life forever. She had once dreamed of repaying me by studying hard and growing up to be someone successful. But when she graduated with a PhD, she discovered from the news that I had married Willow. Anna felt a pang of regret, but she truly wished me well from the bottom of her heart. However, after hearing about what Willow had done to me, Anna grew more and more heartbroken. She couldn't bear to see such a kind person suffer a fate he didn't deserve. After the conference, Anna and I talked for a long time. In the end, we shared a silent moment as though we were old friends who had known each other for years. Anna glanced up at me before quickly shifting her gaze and asked, "Mr. Wang, do you have any plans for the future?" I silently shook my head and replied, "I'll focus on managing the business and expanding the company. As for my personal life," my voice trailed off, uncertain. To be honest, I had no clear expectations for my personal life. After 5 years of marriage to Willow, I didn't want to start over with someone new or embark on another marriage. Yet deep inside, I still longed for a happy life. I just didn't know where to begin. Anna's eyes sparkled as she looked at me and gently passed me a plate with a slice of steak. "Someone as exceptional as you deserves a better life. Don't worry. I'll always support you, whether it's in business or anything else." I smiled and nodded. I invited Anna to join my company. A year passed in the blink of an eye, and with our joint efforts, Wang's company finally went public. Watching the employees cheer below, I was filled with mixed emotions. All my hard work had paid off, and everything I had done had been noticed. It was incredibly gratifying. Family and friends congratulated me. George, the listing went smoothly. Mr. Wong, your future is limitless. The congratulations from my family and friends filled me with a sense of validation, and a warm current rose in my chest. I drank a few more glasses of wine in happiness, and amidst the hazy atmosphere, Anna gently took my hand. We shared a smile, and in each other's eyes, we saw love. A month later, I decided to take Anna back to China. I felt it was time to return to my roots. Though Anna had no parents, she had grown up in China. Before deciding to marry her, I wanted to take her to see my hometown. As soon as I returned to F City, old friends and colleagues came flocking. Some were trying to gain favor, while others were old partners coming to reconnect and enjoy a meal. They had heard I had settled abroad and expanded my business significantly. They all admired me and were happy to see how well Anna and I were doing together, so in love with each other. As we chatted, the vice president of my former company suddenly spoke up. You don't know, but Willow came looking for me recently, asking for your address. I hadn't heard Willow's name in a long time and was momentarily taken aback. The vice president, drunk, continued to complain in a slurred voice. With the way she treated you back then, how could I ever tell her your address? She can dream all she wants. I laughed and humored all my friends before returning to the new villa I had bought with Anna. Though I was only briefly back in China, I hoped Anna and I could visit regularly, so I had already bought our new home as a base for when we returned to settle here. I took Anna out to explore, shopping for all sorts of things, hoping to make up for the lost leisurely moments she hadn't had before. By the time we had everything packed and loaded into the car, the trunk was nearly full, and we were ready to head home and rest. Meanwhile, at the Liu family's old residence, Willow stared blankly at a wedding photo of her and George. Even though it had been 3 years since their divorce, she still couldn't forget him. She had used every resource at her disposal to try and find any trace of George, but had come up empty-handed. This wedding photo, which she had retrieved from the trash, was the only reminder she had left of him. In the picture, Willow stood far from George, but he was smiling broadly. If she could redo the photo, she would hold him tight and tell him she truly loved him. But after all this time, she realized it was George's kindness she couldn't forget. At first, she thought George had just been a comfort after leaving Makoto, believing she was in love with him. But when George left, Willow found herself unable to adapt to life without him. Only then did she realize that what she had felt was true love. But with Makoto between them, Willow had ignored her own heart and refused to admit she had fallen in love with George. Now that George was no longer by her side, she knew she had taken him for granted and regretted not cherishing him sooner. Willow drained a bottle of alcohol in one go when there was a knock on the door. "Miss Liu, will you be attending tomorrow's business forum?" In recent years, Willow had taken over her family's business while searching for any trace of George. She knew he wouldn't give up on work and perhaps he was somewhere continuing with his life. Willow also hoped that by succeeding in business, she could prove to George that she had changed and was no longer the reckless young woman she had once been. She had started attending business forums, and this one would be no different. I too had seen the guest list and was startled when I saw her name. Anna, noticing my change in expression, gently said, "If you don't want to go, I can attend alone." I squeezed her hand and smiled. "It's fine," I replied. I knew this day would come, and I had nothing to hide. I had already moved on and started a new chapter in my life. There was no need to avoid the past. I owed nothing to the Liu family, nor to Willow. The day of the forum arrived, and all the important figures from F City attended. Willow was among them, gracefully mingling with the elites, holding a glass of wine and chatting with various business people. She wondered if, 5 years ago, George had also been in the same situation, navigating countless conversations with strangers. Back then, she had demanded that George always be by her side, ready to drop everything for her. But now, she found herself lost in her memories, longing for what they had shared. Just then, a familiar voice reached her ears, and she froze in place, stunned. It was him, George, just as she had imagined, tall, handsome, with an aura of calm confidence. Surrounded by people, he was laughing and speaking with ease. Overcome with emotion, Willow shouted his name. In the middle of a conversation, I heard her voice, and before I could react, someone collided into me. Willow rushed to embrace me, tears in her eyes. "George." I knew you couldn't leave me, she said. I tried to pull away, but Anna was quicker. She shoved Willow off me, her tone firm. Please respect yourself, Mississippi. Our old friends quickly gathered around, frowning. Willow, what are you doing? You're divorced. Why are you still calling him husband? I straightened my wrinkled clothes with a look of disdain. Anna, my fiancée, was already angry at Willow's behavior, but she knew not to escalate things in such a public setting. Let's go to the cafe downstairs, she suggested. Willow nodded, and we walked away, leaving the crowd behind. At the cafe, Willow's heart was in turmoil. She watched me, every thought filled with regret. I had once never looked at another woman when I was with her, but now I barely spared her a glance. Willow finally spoke, her voice trembling. George, why did you divorce me? I was taken aback by her question, but calmly responded, once I fulfilled the terms of the contract, I had to move on with my life. She shook her head in disbelief. I don't believe it. You can't tell me that everything you did for me was just because of that contract. Didn't you ever feel anything for me? Her body trembled as she spoke, desperate for an answer but afraid of hearing the truth. I met her gaze steadily. No, I never had feelings for you, I continued. When the contract was signed, our relationship was a business arrangement, a bond for family interests. I made sure to remind myself that this was merely a contract. By the time it was signed, I was already prepared for the divorce. Honestly, I had once viewed Willow through rose-colored glasses. She had been the lively, innocent girl from my youth, and I was young too, without much experience in love. Her beauty had made me feel something, but I quickly realized our connection was contractual. Did I try to love her? Perhaps. But my heart wasn't made of stone. After being neglected for Makoto's sake repeatedly, I understood the reality of our relationship. I reminded myself over and over that this was just an agreement, and I no longer had any personal feelings for Willow. After 5 years of living together, I could hardly bring myself to hate Willow anymore. By the end, all I felt was relief, a sense of freedom. Hearing me say this, Willow's face drained of color. I said, Willow, I'll say it one last time, I never loved you, whether 5 years ago or now. There is no possibility for us to ever be together again. Moreover, I already have a fiancé, and I'm very happy now. I hope you won't disturb us. I laid it out plainly. I wasn't concerned with how Willow would react. I just wanted to put an end to this, get back to the party, and deal with work. Willow stood frozen as Anna and I walked away without a second glance. By the time Willow came to her senses, we had already gone far, and the coffee on the table had long gone cold. The forum proceeded smoothly. I was the star of the event, with many local business tycoons trying to please me. In the evening, I couldn't refuse and attended a banquet. After the meal, the waiter brought in a basket of flowers. Mr. Wong, these flowers are from Miss Willow, to celebrate your return to the country. I gave it a cursory glance and instructed my assistant to return them. Please tell Miss Liu that I only accept flowers from my wife. I won't accept any others. I looked at the lilies in the basket and couldn't help but laugh. Willow must have gotten it wrong. The lilies were Makoto's favorite flowers, while I only liked irises. The tycoons in the room were sharp, and upon seeing my sour expression, the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. The waiter, unable to make up her mind, hesitated before being dragged away by the others. But that didn't stop Willow. Every day, she sent me something. Sometimes it was flowers, sometimes gifts, sometimes delicate pastries. Most of the time, before they even reached me, I had my assistant throw them away. Willow refused to give up. Finally, she stopped me on my way home from work. She asked, "Why won't you accept anything I send? Do you really hate me that much?" I sneered. "Yeah, I hate you, you ex-wife. What's the point of pretending to be all sentimental now? Isn't it a little late? Back then, you didn't want me around because I was in your way with Makoto. Now we're divorced. Why don't you go chase your dreams and leave me alone?" Willow's eyes turned red, her voice choked. She subconsciously panicked. "No, George. I never agreed to the divorce. And after you left, I realized I didn't love Makoto. I really loved you. For Makoto, I was just enamored with his idol image, forgetting who I truly loved. Now I realize I was wrong, George. If I apologize, can we start over? Start over? I laughed bitterly. The sweet memories Willow had were painful for me, ones I didn't want to revisit. I never wanted to go back to the past. So I coldly pushed Willow away. You think you can't live without me, but really, you're just lonely and miss having someone cater to your every whim. You don't even understand what love is. You, as a spoiled heiress, still can't figure out your life. You can't distinguish between love and infatuation. You don't deserve anyone's love. My words were blunt. Willow's face went deathly pale. As the Lu family's eldest daughter, she was used to having people listen to her, and rarely had anyone seen her like this, defeated. But I didn't care. This was how I truly felt. I didn't linger. I walked past her and got into the car. I decided to take Anna to the Lu family's house to visit my ex-mother-in-law. Although Lu's mother had me sign the contract with ulterior motives, she had been kind to me over the years. She hadn't made things difficult for me and had helped the Wang family with business matters. So out of respect and decency, I felt I should visit her. At the time, Lu's mother had come up with this idea to help Willow get back on her feet, but honestly, it was like trying to cure poison with poison. Lu's mother had indulged Willow too much, never teaching her how to treat others equally or how to value love and relationships. Back then, because of the Lu family's power, I had no choice but to sign the contract. As an outsider, there was nothing I could change. I had sacrificed 5 years for Lu mother's wishes, but now I had grown into someone of influence. I had found my true love. I couldn't compromise anymore. I wouldn't sacrifice myself for others. Lu's mother watched the mature man before her and felt immense regret. A man like George, steady and reliable, was hard to find, especially one who was a perfect match for the Lu family in both power and success. If Willow had awakened and stayed with George instead of stubbornly chasing after Makoto, the Lu family would have had such a successful son-in-law. Lu's mother thought this to herself. Now, if I were willing to marry into the Lu family and start over with Willow, it would be a very good choice. They would all support it. But after hearing Lu mother's words, I rejected them outright. Madam, when the Wang family came back to expand their business, you helped us a lot. These gifts are a token of my appreciation. Please accept them. But as for the rest, I'm afraid I can't help you. Please don't make things difficult for me. I was no longer the young, naive man I used to be. Now I held power, rising in the business world. I no longer had to grovel when speaking to Lu's mother. She was taken aback at first, then could only sip her tea, swallowing the words she had intended to say. Just as Anna and I were leaving the Lu family's house, we ran into a drunken Willow. "George, are you here specifically to see me?" Willow's eyes widened in surprise, her voice full of hope. I looked down at her and explained calmly, "That's not it. It's just that your mother still expects me to abandon my own life and take care of you again, thinking I'm some young fool who's easy to push around." "Well, I think she's mistaken." Willow's breath hitched as she suddenly remembered the agreement from 5 years ago. All the things I had done for her, all the patience I had shown, were based on sacrificing my dignity and my career. The challenges Willow posed to me, most people wouldn't have been able to bear them. But I endured it for 5 whole years, patiently staying by her side until her mood improved. One could only imagine how difficult those days had been for me. Willow was overcome with guilt, her nose tingling, and she lowered her head, tears falling. She choked up, "I'm sorry, George, I just—" She knew there was nothing more to say that could fix things. Before she could finish, I took Anna's hand and walked away. Maybe the conversation from last time had finally made Willow give up. She didn't try to disturb Anna and me anymore. It wasn't until a gathering in the industry that I took Anna along to introduce her to some of my friends. But soon after we arrived, an unexpected scene unfolded. "George, what are you doing here?" A sharp voice interrupted my conversation. I turned around and saw Maria, her face full of anger. It turned out that Willow had targeted Maria, leading her to lose her job, and now she was working as a waitress, serving drinks at this banquet. Maria looked at me laughing and chatting with others, her eyes filled with resentment. She blamed me for changing her life. My sudden disappearance had angered Willow and led to everything that happened to her. Thinking about all the hardships she had faced these past years, Maria's anger boiled over. She picked up a steak knife from a nearby plate and charged at me. "You don't get to be happy if I'm not." I instinctively tried to dodge, but in my peripheral vision, I saw Anna hadn't reacted yet. A warning went off in my head, and I immediately turned, wrapping my arms around Anna. In the blink of an eye, I felt a stab in my back, but before I could process the pain, the security guards reacted quickly, subduing Maria and taking the knife from her hands. Blood soaked through my dark suit, but I endured the pain and checked to make sure Anna wasn't injured. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Willow rushed over, and the event organizer soon arrived, furious upon seeing one of their invited guests injured. He gritted his teeth and said, "Miss Lu, your friend really has the best manners. I remember at the banquet before Mr. Wong went abroad, Maria made things difficult for him in public, and now she causes this again. What exactly are you trying to do?" Everyone turned to Willow, watching her face turn from pale to red. I kept my composure, my eyes filled with sarcasm. Maria, seizing the moment, began to make a scene. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't disappeared, Willow wouldn't have targeted me, and I wouldn't have ended up as a waitress." At first, Maria had been trying to suck up to Willow. The little that Willow gave her each month had been enough for her to live on, not to mention the bigger circles she got to experience through Willow being friends with rich young ladies, hoping one day to live a life of a high-society lady. But now she was left with only $3,000 a month, barely enough to pay the rent, and everything else was gone. I mocked. "How laughable. You helped Willow bully me, humiliated me, and now when things go wrong, you push all the blame onto me. What do you think you are?" My voice carried weight. Maria finally realized that the man in front of her was no longer the powerless clerk she had once known. She cursed. "You're nothing but a dog. Now that you're someone important, don't forget you were still under our heels back then." Willow bit her lip. "Shut up." With a loud slap, Willow struck Maria across the face. Maria shouted, "Willow, I stood up for you, and you're doing this to me." George may be successful now, but he's still nothing compared to Makoto. "He doesn't deserve you. Don't let him fool you." Maria's words were filled with bitterness and pain, but Willow frowned. She quickly covered Maria's mouth, warning her to be quiet. Then she glanced at the security guards and ordered, "This madwoman is just rambling. Are you all just going to stand there? Take her away." Willow then crouched beside me and said, "George, are you all right? I'll have someone take you to the hospital." "I really didn't expect her to come and," I said. "Willow, I won't forget what happened today." With a stern expression, I interrupted her. "Maria wasn't really targeting me, right? And the world is so small. How did she, a familiar face, manage to get in here? Didn't you have a hand in this? You should be thankful that my fiancé wasn't hurt, or you'd be in big trouble," I added, my words firm. Everyone in the room understood the implication. Today's entire incident was orchestrated by Willow, and her goal was Anna. It was almost chilling to think someone could be so ruthless. Lu Mother turned pale and said, "George, we'll make sure to address what happened today. Whatever the cost, the Lu family will compensate you." I ignored her and took Anna to the hospital. Later that night, the Lu family villa was far from peaceful. Maria lay on the floor, bruised and battered, her skin torn from the beating, her eyes empty and lifeless. Willow was gasping for breath, her own exhaustion evident. Lu Mother paced nervously, saying, "What's the point of hitting her? Do you think the Wong family is someone we can afford to offend?" The Wong family was at its peak, while the Lu family, with no one to take over the business, was on a steep decline. Lu Father arrived home, furious. Without a word, he slapped Willow across the face. "I raised a useless child like you. You are a disgrace to the Lu family." He glanced at Maria on the floor and ordered, "Get her out of here, and make sure she disappears from F City. We can't afford any more trouble with Wong. This can never happen again." Willow tried to intervene. "Dad, even if Maria was wrong, you can't just treat her like this." Lu Father, clearly disappointed with his daughter's lack of understanding, sighed deeply. "For years, the Lu family has been prominent, and now I see it's all going to be ruined by you. All you think about is love and men. You've become useless." He turned to Lu Mother. "And you spoiled her. Now look at the mess she's made." If you don't start disciplining her, who knows what kind of trouble she'll cause next." His anger was palpable as he warned, "If this continues, I'll disown you. Everything will go to your brother." Willow, stunned, stood frozen in place as Lu Father's harsh words sank in. "Get out. The Lu family doesn't want you anymore." Willow and her mother, pale and speechless, collapsed onto the ground, unable to process the situation. The news of the Lu family's downfall spread quickly in their social circle. Everyone could see that George had taken decisive action against them, and Willow's reckless behavior had cost her dearly. A week later, the Lu family's stock crashed, and they faced the risk of bankruptcy. This was just the beginning of George's subtle yet effective retaliation. Lu Father knew George had only given them a warning as he waited to see their sincerity. At home, Lu Father gathered Willow and Lu Mother, his gaze cold as he spoke. "Wife, you should go to Australia and enjoy your retirement. Don't come back to China." Lu Mother was stunned, unable to react. Then Lu Father turned to Willow. "All your shares are gone. You are no longer my daughter. From now on, you are on your own." Willow, in shock, pleaded, "Dad, I'm your daughter. How can you say that?" Lu Mother begged, "I've been with you for so many years, and now you want me gone? This is too cruel." But Lu Father remained unmoved, his expression hardening. He cared only for the Lu family's business, and everything else could be discarded. "You both can leave. The Lu family doesn't want you," he declared. Willow and her mother, now utterly defeated, collapsed to the floor, stunned by the turn of events. They had never imagined that George's influence had reached this level. News of the Lu family's downfall spread quickly, and people began whispering about George's actions. It was clear he had not spared them in his pursuit of revenge for Willow's past manipulation. Anna and I were preparing to return to our home country. While packing, Anna asked, "Are we going back so soon?" I hugged her from behind and laughed. "What? Don't you want to get married?" Blushing, Anna didn't respond, but it was clear that everything had changed between us. She had seen my true feelings, and she agreed to marry me. As for me, I no longer wanted to stay in F-City, weary of Willow's entanglements. Just as we were about to leave, Anna showed me something on her phone. She said, "Do you remember the star Makoto?" I paused. Makoto had disappeared from the public eye after leaving the entertainment industry. I hadn't heard much about him, so I was surprised to see the news. She said, "Makoto passed away just yesterday." I read the headline in shock. Makoto died at home yesterday due to family dispute. Apparently, he had argued with his wife, who in a heated moment had pushed him down the stairs, causing his accidental death. It was a bitter reminder that the past, particularly Willow's obsession with Makoto, had led to irreversible consequences. Had it not been for Willow's pursuit of Makoto, this tragedy might never have happened. As Anna and I prepared to leave, friends organized a farewell party for us. After a lively evening, as we were about to head home, a car behind us flashed its high beams. "George, I need to talk to you," came Willow's voice. She was driving, her eyes determined. She blocked the road with her car, causing a traffic jam. Fearing for Anna's safety, I reluctantly got into the car. Willow drove off silently as we headed toward the Wong family estate. Finally, she spoke. "George, if it weren't for that contract, if there were no Makoto, would you have ever been with me?" I paused, nearly thinking I had misheard her. Willow's eyes were hopeful, as if waiting for me to say something comforting. But I laughed, my voice calm and resolute. Whether there was a contract or not, no matter who you chased, we would never have been together. I looked at Willow's head, which hung low, and continued, "And you, how could you possibly love me? You've spent all your time chasing Makoto, almost losing your mind over him. You never paid attention to me. Do you even know what I like? What my hobbies are? Do you understand my true nature? You don't know anything about me. Don't talk about love. It's ridiculous. You only cared about my devotion, about how I gave everything for you for 5 years without complaint. You were used to that love being given, but when it was taken back, you couldn't stand it. You think you know love, but you don't. You don't understand loyalty, sacrifice, and responsibility. You don't deserve to love anyone, and you certainly don't deserve to love me." With every word I spoke, Willow's face turned even paler. If only she had a little bit of heart, these 5 years wouldn't have been filled with so much disappointment, and I wouldn't have completely given up on her. She wouldn't have cheated during our marriage, repeatedly running to others, causing a family to fall apart because of her actions. I have my own life now, and someone I love. Please don't bother me anymore, I said. I said it all in one breath, leaving Willow standing there stunned. It was as though all the energy had been drained from her. Tears streamed down her face, her heart breaking into pieces. Willow stared at me as I walked away, knowing she had lost all chances with no reason to keep me. But at that moment, a blinding light suddenly flashed, and I instinctively covered my eyes. Then came Willow's scream and the screeching of car brakes. "George!" By the time I reacted, I saw Willow lying in a pool of blood, her face expressionless, and Maria looking like she had lost all sense of herself. It turned out that Maria, in a state of complete despair after running away from the Liu family, had tried to seek revenge on me. That was the reason behind tonight's incident. She hated me for changing her fate and causing the Liu family to want her eliminated. Maria wanted me dead, wanted me to pay with my life. But just as things were about to take a tragic turn, Willow had shoved me aside. I fell to the ground, scraping only a little skin, but Willow was hit full force, falling hard to the ground and losing consciousness. I quickly called the police, but it was too late. Willow's injuries were severe, and she was rushed to the hospital, where she slipped into a coma. After a whole day of emergency treatment, the doctors managed to stabilize her condition, but they said she would be dependent on machines for the rest of her life, confined to a hospital bed forever. Maria was immediately arrested for intentional harm and thrown into prison. The Liu family had connections, so it was certain that she would face severe punishment. After the incident, Anna and I rushed to the hospital. Looking at Willow, barely recognizable, my emotions were complex and conflicted. We had nothing to do with each other anymore, so why had she risked her life to save me? Had she completely given up on her own life? I sighed and didn't want to dwell on it. Perhaps it was because Willow had lived as a pampered lady her entire life, thinking all she needed was to receive love without having to give anything in return. But in that moment, something I said in the car changed her. She reached out for me, and that act of redemption was far too late. What use was love that came too late? But still, she had been hurt for my sake, so I changed our flight tickets and waited patiently for Willow to wake up. A week later, Willow regained consciousness. Upon learning that she would never be able to walk again and that it was Maria who had hit her with the car, Willow didn't show much of a reaction. She simply looked at me with tears in her eyes but remained silent for a long time. She glanced at the bouquet of irises at the bedside and smiled peacefully. We had been together for 5 years. Whenever I was upset, Willow would casually give me a bouquet of lilies to comfort me, and I would immediately calm down. So Willow always thought I liked lilies. But after our divorce, when she became obsessed with me, she visited every place I used to go. Only then did she learn that I was actually allergic to lilies. I didn't love lilies. Makoto did. But because they were from Willow, I smiled and accepted them. Later, Willow found out that I liked irises, but after 5 years together, she hadn't known. It was like the wrong flowers. Our entire 5-year marriage was a series of mistakes. She had never really cared about me, just like the flowers she gave at the wrong time. It was in the wrong place, with the right person. No matter what others did, Willow had already lost me because she never took me seriously. Willow looked at the man before her and remembered that day on the yacht, when I had knelt on broken glass and proposed to her. Willow knew I wasn't good at lying, so that sincere, heart-wrenching gaze had been real. But once I had loved her, when had she lost me, and when had she failed to find me again? Willow was overwhelmed by a deep, inexplicable sadness. She realized that our relationship was completely over. The regret that came too late made her cry uncontrollably. Only now did Willow understand what it truly meant to love someone. She had fallen in love with me when it was already impossible. She finally recognized the intense love she had for me. Willow cried so much she could hardly speak, but she still managed to force a smile. Choking, she said, "George, goodbye. Never again." Anna and I successfully returned home, and on the plane, I received news that Liu's mother had passed away. After being sent abroad, she had heard about Willow's accident. The shock caused her to collapse from a heart attack. Without a nurse at home, by the time she was found and rushed to the hospital, it was too late. She had already passed away. As I listened to the news, I felt a deep sense of sorrow. Everyone paid the price for their actions, some painfully, others irreversibly. The Liu family, once thriving, fell apart, losing two crucial figures in an instant. Liu's father was drowning in debt and had to sell the company to settle it. On the day the Liu family went bankrupt, I saw Willow on the television. She was sitting in a wheelchair, wearing mourning clothes, clutching a white flower wreath. Her eyes were hollow, void of any expression. People came up to her to offer their condolences, but Willow seemed deaf to it, sitting still until the coffin was lifted away. Then she screamed in agony, crying almost to the point of fainting. She wailed, "Mom, you're the only one who ever truly loved me. Now both you and George are gone. What will I do?" Willow's sobs were so heartbreaking that she eventually fainted. I turned off the television. The once cherished daughter of the Liu family had become disabled, and her mother had tragically passed away. The once prosperous Liu family had collapsed so suddenly. Everyone felt sorry for it, and I was no exception. But karma had come for them, and I had no words to offer. As planned, Anna and I held our wedding, surrounded by the love and blessings of our family and friends. We kissed each other happily. After the wedding, Anna continued her research, and I kept working hard for my career. Our values aligned, and every day we spent together was full of sweetness and happiness. In the early winter, as the first snow fell, Anna excitedly told me, "I'm going to be a dad." We embraced, watching the snow fall outside, entering a new stage of our lives. The warmth of that moment brought peace to my heart. Just then, I received a call from a friend in China. He said, "Willow is dead. She took her own life in the hospital. She left a letter for you. Do you want to see it?" I looked at Anna, who was cooking, and shook my head. "No. Burn it. There's no such thing as a pill for regret, and no second chances. Willow's life was hers to choose, and I had no right to interfere. One thing I knew, life moves forward. After our divorce, we were strangers. Why would I read the letter of a stranger? I had no desire to look back, and I certainly didn't want to accept her late affection." The snow stopped. I hung up the phone and walked back home. I hugged Anna from behind, resting my hand on her stomach, feeling the growth of life. "We will be happier every day," I said, my voice firm. I kissed Anna, and with that, I believed that after the storm, a clear sky was waiting for me.